Guys, I'm audible. If I'm audible, please type yes in the chat box so I know I'm audible. And my video is also on now. If you could just type yes in the chat box, I'm all in. Yeah, that's wonderful. Welcome to the inaugural episode of The Future Business Leader at Books and Business Lit Fest. Our aim with this program is to bring together corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, curious minds, and book enthusiasts like yourself through engaging discussions centered around enlightening books. We explore crucial aspects of the business and corporate world. What sets this apart? You get to gain insights from global business leaders right from the comfort of your own space. I'm Bhandary, the co-founder of Orrigem Hub. Today, we are privileged to have Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, Independent Director and Non-Executive Chairman, Castrol India Limited, and co-author of Inside the Boardroom, moderating our discussion. A warm welcome to Mr. Ravi Kant, former Vice Chairman, Tata Motors, and unfortunately, our Dr. Tulsi Jayakumar won't be able to join us today. She is also the co-author of the book Inside the Boardroom. And Mr. Ramesh Venkateswaran, Chairman IIT Pallakad and visiting professor of IIMB. A heartfelt welcome to each one of you. Many of you, my valued clients, well-wishers, and friends, have been a constant support. Thank you for joining us today. For those new to Orrigem community, let me introduce Orrigem. We officially began in 2012, specializing in customized design solutions. Orrigem tailors creatives and strategies through consultations, ensuring alignment with clients' specific needs or challenges. Our services extend beyond project completion with post-delivery follow-ups. We guarantee the optimal outcomes. Core services of Orrigem includes logo design, various print designs, coffee table books, website development, and digital marketing. My entrepreneurial journey began in 2012 after working with renowned brands like Tata Broadband, GVK, Vodafone, and various domestic brands. Orrigem also extends its services to NGOs like Tata Medical Center, Jeevanidhi, Ma Foundation, and many more social groups. What started as a humble setup with just one computer and a table has now expanded across India with operations in Jammu, Odisha, Gujarat, Mangalore, Amchi, Mumbai, and recently in Toronto, Canada. On this special occasion, heartfelt thanks to my co-founder, Mr. Nitin Gosavi, and all my team members, and everyone who played a role in Orrigem's journey. Your unwavering support, both in business and morally, has been the driving force behind our success. Though I can't name everyone, I express my gratitude to Himanshu, Geeta Gopalakrishnan, Giridhar Giri, Anandraj, Mohan Raj, Jairaj, Madhav Shetty, Arun Bhandary, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, my team, my parents, in-laws, and my beloved wife, Supriya. Dear friends, Orrigem faced its share of challenges, tackling financial and team challenges along with the broader issues business encountered. The toughest test was during the COVID-19 pandemic, pushing Orrigem to the brink of bankruptcy. In those challenging times, your support from my dedicated team to well-wishing clients like you played a crucial role in keeping Orrigem's afloat. Today, I proudly stand before you, witnessing Orrigem's resurgence and growth, serving over 100 entrepreneurs and corporate clients. I would like to conclude with a thought. Becoming an entrepreneur is the first step, but living the life of entrepreneur is a real adventure. I feel fortunate to live this adventure with every breath. Thank you, and let's embrace the future together. I now invite Mr. Mukesh Kotian to present a brief video guiding us through Orrigem's journey thus far. Mr. Mukesh Kotian, could you please play the video? That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us in celebrating Orrigem journey. We are now entering the main program of this event, the panel discussion. Before I invite Mrs. Supriya Bhandary to introduce our esteemed panelists, I would like to share some guidelines for the smooth event and maximum benefit for everyone. First of all, find a spot with uninterrupted internet, take plenty of notes, have a bottle of water with you, put your mobile phones on silent. Please remain muted unless asked to unmute during the event. During the Q&A session, use the digital hand symbol and we'll assist you in unmuting you for your question. When posing your question, mention your name, occupation, and specify the panelist it's directed to. Keep your questions brief and avoid repeating others' questions to maximize the number of questions answered within the allotted time. Now, over to you, Supriya ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted and honored to introduce our esteemed and distinguished panelists to you. Our first panelist is Ravi Kant. Mr. Ravi Kant, author of Leading from the Back, has nearly 50 years of corporate experience across industries. He spent 15 years in Tata Motors, where he was the CEO and managing director and later vice chairman of the board. Prior to Tata Motors, he was a director, consumer electronics on the board of Philips India. He has also worked in the senior position at LML Limited, Titan Watches, Kinetic Engineering, Hawkins, and Hindustan Aluminium. Currently, he is on the board of Cone Limited, Helsinki, one of the top elevator company in the world, and Hawkins Cooker Limited, a well-known consumer durable company. He is also the chairman advisory board of Akhand Jyoti and is associated with two startups in the cancer area. Mr. Khan studied at Mayo College Ajmer, did BTech honors at IIT Kharagpur and MSc in Management Technique in Industry from Ashton University. UK. He was an industrial professor at the University of Warwick, UK, and a distinguished professor at IIT Kharagpur. He was the chairman of IIM Rohtak, IIT Allahabad, and has been associated with NIT Ahmedabad and Business School at IIT Bombay, IIT Kharagpur, NUS Singapore, and CEIBS Shanghai. A warm welcome to you, sir. Moving to our next panelist, Dr. Tulsi Jayakumar. Our next panelist, Dr. Tulsi Jayakumar, who co-authored the book Inside the Boardroom with Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, is unwell and unfortunately couldn't join today. Let's proceed to our next panelist, Mr. Ramesh Venkateswaran. Ramesh Venkateswaran, author of the book Happiness Trial, A Roadmap to Success, is a management professional and educator. He is currently Chairman, Board of Governors of Indian Institute of Technology, Pallakad, and a former member of the Board of Governors of the Lawrence School, Lovejoy, at 165-year-old residential school in Ooty, Tamil Nadu. Mr. Ramesh is an adjunct faculty in the marketing area at IIM Bangalore. He teaches the flagship PGP, PGPEM, and EPGP program at IIM Bangalore. A mechanical engineer from IIT Bombay and a graduate and postgraduate in management from IIM Bangalore. He is a distinguished alumni awardee at IIM Bangalore. He was the gold medalist of his batch of 1980 at IIM Bangalore. Mr. Ramesh Venkateswaran is also involved with the various social relevant issues and projects. He is a founder member, chairman, and volunteer at Vishwas, a not-for-profit counseling organization in Bangalore that offers free and confidential counseling service for people in emotional stress since 1991. He is a trustee in Bangalore Medical Service Trust, a leading blood bank based in Bangalore, and was president of the Richmond Fellowship Society Karnataka, an association that offers care to mentally ill adults. A keen sportsman, he has represented his state at national level in badminton. A warm welcome to you, sir. And now, our moderator for the event, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce the co-author of the book, Inside the Boardroom, and our esteemed moderator, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, for today's exclusive panel discussion. With academic root in physics and engineering from Kolkata University and IIT Kharagpur, he further refined his skills at Harvard Business School. Since 1967, Mr. Gopalakrishnan has made significant contributions to the corporate world, holding key positions such as chairman of Unilever Arabia and managing director of Brookbond Lipton. Currently, he serves as an independent director and non-executive chairman of Castrol India. An accomplished speaker and author of 18 books, Mr. Gopalakrishnan brings a wealth of experience to our discussion. Join me in welcoming him to guide us through this enlightening conversation. A warm welcome to you, sir. And now, I request Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan to lead us through the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Supriya. Am I audible? I think I have been unmuted. Yes, I have.
Yes.
Well, thank you all very much. And it's a great pleasure for me to participate in this effort taken by Orrigem. I happen to know a little bit about Orrigem. It is basically a startup, 8-10 years old. And I persuaded, because my co-panelists are very distinguished people, busy people, Ravi, Kant, Ramesh, Venkateswaran. And if I may add Tulsi, Jayakumar in absentia, they are very busy people. But I said, let us support Orrigem in launching this initiative of Books and Business Lit Fest. Because all of us feel that MSMEs, startups, SMEs are very, very important parts of the Indian economy. And while our CVs may suggest that we have all worked for very large companies, we've had tremendous exposure to small companies, believe it or not. As the managing director and a vice chairman of Tata Motors, and even in his earlier roles, Ravi has dealt with distributors on the sales side and vendors on the supply side. So has Ramesh Venkateswaran during his career. And Tulsi Jayakumar, of course, chairs the family business, family managed business in SPJIMR. So all of us are really voting with our voices and our time to support SMEs. And I think many of the audience are also SMEs. And we hope that the subject that we have chosen for today's discussion will resonate with you, because we want to talk to you today in our discussion about the future leader. I think all the speakers have been introduced. I have a personal relationship with all of them. And I just like to acknowledge Ravi and I have known each other for ever since our hair was black, if I may put it that way. From IIT days, we were contemporaries in IIT. And Tulsi and I have co-authored 3 or 4 books. And I've worked a lot with her in SPJIMR. And Ramesh is a very dear friend. He's a very unusual person who has given up a corporate career to teach in a school and then in an institute of management, and helps very helpful with young people. So I think you have an eclectic group of 3 people. And what I would like to do, I would like to close our discussion by about 7:15, so that Praveen, you have 5 or 7 minutes to wind up. And I would like to close 7:30, definitely, if not 5 minutes before. So we will all respect time. Now, what is it about the future leader? Why should anybody be interested in spending after the Pran Pratishthan discussion on the future leader? Well, for sure, the leader of the future is going to be very different from the leader of the past. That's not surprising, but the question is in what way? And people think that a leader is a big person, a famous person. If you're managing director, vice chairman of a big listed company, people think that that's a leader. But a leader of a startup, a leader of an SME, is also a leader, because all of them are making social and economic contributions in the field they are doing. And India desperately needs leaders who are adapting to the future. And there are, in our view, 3 or 4 areas in which those leaders have to shine and adapt. The first is in governance. Governance of a company is a very important aspect. And very often, especially in SMEs, MSMEs, startups, people think there's too much bureaucracy involved in governance, leave it alone, we'll deal with it later. The second one is about leadership. And there is a general image that a leader must have big blue eyes, a square jaw, he must know more than anybody around him or her, and he should be able to guide people, if not instruct them. And the image of the past leader is in governance and leadership changed completely. There's a third area which we are not going to touch upon today, which is innovation. But someday in the future at an Orrigem seminar, we can talk about innovation and how that has changed. And the last and the most important aspect is fulfillment. Why are we leading our lives? What are we trying to do? Are we just trying to become a unicorn? Are we trying to make more profit? Are we trying to buy a bungalow in Malabar Hill or Koregaon Park? So happiness and fulfillment. And assembled here today, thanks to my very dear friends, today I'll keep it now to Ravi, Kant and Ramesh, because Tulsi is not here. But since I'm the co-author of the book with her, I can double up for her. They're all authors of books. And we are bringing you not the vice chairman and managing director of Tata Motors, but if I may say so, the author of this book, leading, I hope you can see it, leading from the back. And I'm bringing you Ramesh Venkateswaran, who is the author of this book, which is Happiness. And my own book is, of course, on the backdrop of my frame. These books are all available with Rohit Jarajani. And if anybody wishes to buy these books, Praveen can be contacted. Orrigem can give you the contacts. He gives you delivery wherever you want. So let me start with leadership and perhaps start with Ravi. Ravi, you have written a book about leading from the back. And everybody in the world is saying you must lead from the front. Can you just share with our audience how you have chosen this rather unusual terminology, leading from the back, and what exactly does it mean in simple words?
Thank you, Gopal. As you are aware that successful leadership, like any product or any organization, is contextual. And you have said so also in your brief introduction. If the context changes, leadership style must also change. We also have leaders, as you know, the companies keep changing the leaders depending upon whether there's a steady growth, which is going to be there, or there's sudden contraction in the economy, then you change the leader, or there's a growth period, then you have a different leader. So companies and corporates keep doing that. But that is for small phases, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. What here we are talking about a general stream or general DNA of leadership. And that is what I'll be talking about. So corporates, as we know today, are about 200 years old only. And it's not that we are talking about 2000 years old. So they came into being after the first industrial revolution, which gave impetus to mass manufacturing in, say, mid-18th century, mass and manufacturing. And you could go far distances because of steam engine and roads and all that development which took place. And therefore, corporations started becoming bigger. And therefore, you needed to have an organization, you needed to have processes, you needed to have systems to control the organization. And therefore, the best alternative, instead of reinventing the wheel, they found something which was already working. And there were two places. One was the military, which has been successful for thousands of years, at least 2,000-3,000 years, and also the religion, the Catholic Church, because Industrial Revolution happened in the West and Catholic Church was there, and therefore the organization was hierarchical, top-down, everything everything well defined and all that. However, after the third revolution in the 20th century, last century, and currently in the 21st century, this leadership, a lot of context has changed, as you can see. Things have context has changed dramatically. Things have started moving very fast. We have now uncertainty, unpredictability, and the explosion of data. So if I was to just quote a well-known MIT professor, Professor Ray Kurzweil, he mentioned some years ago, that the progress which is there, the rate of progress is doubling. And therefore, a century of progress at today's rate can be compacted or can be contained in 1 month. Now, this is the kind of century of progress can be now contained in 1 month. Tomorrow it can be in 1 week. Day after tomorrow it can be 1 day. So there's huge explosion of data, and all this is becoming very complex. And therefore, it is really literally impossible for any one person to lead from the front. And you need to have, therefore, a different kind of leadership. That's one point. Second point is, leading from the front is characterized by, egoistic, bombastic, my way or highway kind of leaders who always wants to be up there. Now, we have somehow suffered this. We have got along with this. We had a lot of patience and all that. But today's kids, today's millennials, today's younger people don't want to have this. They don't want to tolerate this. They don't want to have anything to do with these kind of leaders. They want to get away. So for these two reasons, we need to see that we are seeing that leading from the front is broken and it needs to be replaced, and it should give way to something else. And what is that something else? That we can talk about. I mean, we can different theories and different proposals. But I'm proposing here, leading from the back, several individuals and organizations are actually already doing it. But it is not very well known. It is not very well practiced because of two reasons, I would say. First, the leading from the back kind of leader is a very unassuming. He's not interested in getting himself up in the front page of the newspapers or magazines, and he wants to do his job and be content with that. He is more concerned with the team and the task rather than with himself. And the second is, because of the dominant thing of leading from the front type of leaders, and he has taken all the space in the media, he's taken all this thing in there, and somehow the society likes that. So whether it's the business schools, the media, they want to promote that kind of things in the thing. But I think the way I've said it is things are changing, the context is changing, and therefore we need to have a different kind of leadership. And my book, which you have already mentioned, leading from the back, is a step in that direction.
So Ravi, what you're really saying is, if you look at the leader at the time you and I started our careers, which is a long time ago, 50 years ago, leading from the front was a stylish thing. Right. So you had people like Jack Welch and so on, who were the heroes of our younger. If we were to be still alive in 2030 or 2040, the kind of leader you would see would be vastly different, and you've just described. But a person who's leading from the back, isn't there a danger that people will see him as an ineffective fellow?
Yeah.
How do you reconcile this?
Gopal, two things I'll say. One is, look at what's happening to the books which are coming out. Jack Welch, who was our kind of a mentor, you can say, although we may not have met him, but this is what we were wanted to emulate. What kind of books are coming about him now, or his successor? So people are now questioning very, very seriously as whether that kind of leadership was good even in that point in time. Is definitely not good at this point in time. Second question, I would say, Gopal, as you have already said, we have known each other since Kharagpur days, and you have known me several years. So please tell me, how would you characterize me? I'm soft and effective, soft and ineffective, harsh and effective, or harsh and ineffective? I've given you 4 options. So you choose which one would apply to me.
So it's harsh and effective? What is the word?
Harsh and ineffective. Harsh and effective, harsh and ineffective, soft and effective, and soft and ineffective.
I would characterize you as soft and effective.
So
And
there you are.
The reason why I say that, because you're an unusual guy, Ravi. I'm not flattering you, and I'm just having a conversation because that's the purpose of today's webinar, not to give a bhashan to everybody. You, in your own quiet way, I used to see, made it very clear to somebody what his responsibility is. Then you left him alone. But if he failed to deliver, you held him accountable, because people who are given responsibility must be accountable. That's why I called it soft and effective.
But that's what this is all about. This is what all distributed leadership. So you give people opportunity to prove themselves. You give opportunity for people to exhibit their talents, to their strengths, and not take everything yourself and do everything yourself. You know, this is, I mean, Tata Motors, we have been together. This is not one-off thing. In 50 years of my career, I've seen it in 7 industries, because I've worked in 7 companies which are in different industries and different moments, different times, whether it's a up cycle or down cycle or something else happening or not happening. And therefore, I have seen that it has worked. Yes, what it needs patience. If you want something to happen just tomorrow, then many times it may not be possible. But if you are able to give some time and have some patience, I think in the long run, this is a far more durable, far more sustainable type of leadership than the leading from the front one.
Yeah, I understand. Ravi, I am conscious that many of our audience are probably people running organizations with, 50 to 500 people, and they are not Tata Motors or Tata Steel. And they probably feel the pressure to lead from the front because they are the founder or the proprietor or the majority shareholder, very likely. Now, the question I have for you is, does your principle, and you've described it in a very unusual way in your book, I mean, for the benefit of the audience who haven't read his book yet, it's in the nature of a fable, a story. He doesn't tell all this in like a management book. And he just says A said to B said to C, and then it sort of evolves. So it's a very interesting way to read it. If you're on a flight from Pune to Bombay, you can read it on the flight. But of course, he gives you a lot to think about. So my question to you is, does your principle that you outlined apply equally to small companies?
Okay, let me give you an incident or true incident. Many people have bought the books, many people have taken the books, many books have signed and given to people. So one of the guys reported back to me, he had presented the book to somebody, like one of such persons who runs a medium scale industry, say about 1,000 crore turnover. He has about 100, 200 people and all that. He's in distribution, things like that. And you know what? After reading the book, this fellow gives feedback to the other person. He says, look, after reading the book, I've changed. What is the change? Earlier, for everything, I used to get into it. Okay, this fellow is not doing, I'll get into it. There's a problem, I'll get into it. After reading a book, I've said, it is your responsibility, you do the job. And I'm finding that things are working much better because people are taking greater interest. People are seeing that they're being acknowledged, they're being respected, and they're doing things. And many times they're coming with a solution much better than I would have come with. And therefore, I find it very liberating that, and very, very nice that I'm following this kind of thing. So it works everywhere. It works in small companies, it works in big companies. As I said, it works in different phases of economy, different phases of companies' life.
Lovely. So if I may just summarize, because you have used a word which is a very interesting bridge to the next part of what I want to do. But if I may summarize, you're saying not only does it work well, but leading from the front will actually not work well 20 years from now, for the various reasons that you have described. So It is not much of an option, except that people who are going to be in a leadership position already or going to be for the next 20, 30 years should really learn through their own adhyayan, study, how to lead from the back. But you used a word which the reader told you that he felt liberated. Now, human being feeling liberated, feeling fulfilled, feeling happy is an undescribable feeling. And yet, when you look around the world, Ramesh, I want to move to you now because you've written a book on happiness. I'm using happiness as a surrogate because it's linked to leadership with words like fulfillment and liberation. Why is everybody so unhappy in the first place, Ramesh? Your video is off, Ramesh.
And so I'm okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your video is not visible.
No, my video, I can see myself, Gopal.
I can see it too. I
You
can see him. I can see him.
I
Okay.
can.
Yeah, sir. I think Venkateswaran sir is online. Yeah, we can see him.
Praveen can see me, I hope. Praveen, you
Okay,
can?
please carry on.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, sir. We can see.
Good question. I really wish I had the answer, but I think it's not very uncomplicated. Ravi's concept of leading from behind, why some of these things are they become great is because they're almost intuitive. They're almost intuitive in multiple ways. And I think, Ravi, your whole thing about leading from behind at the end of the day is something that the good guys have always been doing in many, many years. And you put it probably in a succinct form, which we are able to relate to. So, this is, Gopal, let me divide this into three parts as to why are people happy, and that is really the reason how this book came into being. I find that today happiness is a mirage, and I think what I learned as writing the book was to differentiate between various words that we use itself. And happiness is just a surrogate for a state of mind that we use. But we are living in a world of paradoxes. We are living in a world where we are earning more, the material comforts are more, we have so many more choices, in fact. And yet, as you look at it, yes, our happiness indexes are going down. And I think it comes from multiple, obviously, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a social scientist, I am not, a person who quoting from scriptures and religious texts or philosophers and so on. I'm saying this, Gopal, because what happens is the minute you talk about happiness and you talk about it, and you also sent me one. There are millions of books on happiness, and from philosophy of happiness to the science of happiness to the psychology of happiness to God knows what of happiness. Now, I want a disclaimer from everybody. I am not any of those guys. I'm just a simple, uncomplicated marketing chap who has worked his way up carrying briefcases in the market. That's it. But having said that, so therefore, what I'm trying to say is there is one stream of happiness and all this which comes through quoting from scriptures, from philosophers, from the Platos to the big timers. I call that the wisdom of the ages, wisdom that has seeped down through a lot of thinking. My view on what I'm going to discuss today and what is in the book is what I call wisdom of age. The wisdom of age, of growing gray, of growing old, of seeing people, being fortunate to have looked at world through multiple lenses. That's been one of my biggest luck. I teach strategy in the class, but if somebody asked me, what was your strategy? Where was your grand mission? And I don't have an answer to that. So, like all good case studies, I've retrofitted my life. Case studies are all about retrofitting. You see something and then you try and put them in place. So today, what is happening? Mental health is a challenge. And I think, if I were to make it simple, you and I grew up, Gopal, you're a few years senior to me, but we had no choice. You had one Fiat, and I still remember when I worked even 3 years after IIM, I said, if I could buy a second-hand car in my life, I would be very happy. I never aspired for a new car.
Not only that, Ramesh, you and I thought, and Ravi as well, that if we manage to buy one car, we'll hang on to it for all of our life.
Yeah,
we would never have the money to buy another car.
Exactly. 1983, 84, when Maruti came in with their Maruti. Till then, it was an aspirational, and I was in the two-wheeler industry, so I know, the Lambrettas and the Vespas of this world. So we were satisfied, and this is my message to young people and young leaders or anybody actually for that matter. Leaders are dealing. So today, choice, and choice is really about too many things. I think we can go into multiple theories, which we don't want to. The first thing is the level of, do I really need anything? So from the competition is so severe. From the day you're born, your parents are running a relay race for you. You have to get into a good kindergarten, you have to get into a good college, you got to get a good mark. So I asked myself, what are we trying to do? These are metrics of success. I must get into the so-called school, I get a 90% board exam, I get into the IIT or the NIT or XYZ AIMS, and then I pass that. Why am I doing this? So these are metrics of success. And when you look at it, what is it that you're assuming? This achievement of this goal of success will make me happy. So actually, as human beings, we are fundamentally chasing happiness. And we believe that the success metrics that we will achieve will lead us to happiness, which is fine. But in my thinking and discussions, I realized the paradox or the fallibility of this argument, because what happens, Gopal, is that the minute you've reached your success goal, that goal is irrelevant to you. I got into IIT. It's now irrelevant that I'm in IIT. Now I have to fight the IIT guys. The day I have got out of IIT and got my job, it's irrelevant because I'm no longer competing with somebody else. I'm now competing with Gopal and Ravi Kant in Tata Motors. So what happens is we are chasing a goal, and you realize that goal is ephemeral, it's transient, it's illusionary almost. And therefore, I realized that we need to relook. And therefore, what I realized was all of us are following a formula: success equal to happiness. That is, if I'm successful, I will be happy. I said that maybe we need to rejig our paradigm. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. We need to rejig and say, happiness is equal to success. If I'm happy, I'm successful. And therefore, what are the metrics? What are the parameters I need to look at if I'm happy? And this is applicable to just about anybody. Now, why are we unhappy? I don't need to tell the generation today. Options. First of all, options. You always go to a restaurant and you want, after looking at the 200 items on the menu, you order something and then you look at the next table and find that, hey, I should have ordered that instead of this. I order a car, this marketing jargon of cognitive dissonance kind of stuff. So we are never sure. Second is there's too much of change. Ravi has already mentioned this. The change is happening at such a rapid thing. We ourselves are uncomfortable with the changes of status quo. None of us wants a change of status quo. We are comfortable with we are comfortable with the status quo. And every change demands change of behavior, change of learning, unlearning, uncertainty, risk, all of these factors. So I think that's one. The third I see in younger generation, and I am speaking from my counseling experience. The third is social media and the Facebooks and the other Instagrams of this world. We have, I see youngsters, 11th standard, 12th standard kids doing exceedingly well, and they come to me as nervous wrecks. Why? Because social media. I had a boy, 11th standard kid, who came to us, parents brought me because they knew him. And what happened? He found on Facebook that a very close friend of his had a birthday party and this boy was not invited. And he learned it through the Facebooks. And this guy is a wreck. I'm not even talking about small things. I'm talking about fairly serious. So I think the pressure to perform, the pressure to conform, the pressure to be with everybody, the media, I think all of these have made it. So let me sum this up very quickly, Gopal. I think for the current generation, Ravi has already said it, I'm only reinforcing it. Our life, Gopal, was like we were on a gentle stream and the water was about 6 inches high. You could not capsize. Change was slow. Change was very, very, unthreatening. And therefore, we didn't need too many skills to manage it. Today's world, I say, is you're on whitewater rafting. And you better have the competence, the skills, the wherewithal to navigate yourself. In which case, you need to be clear, where am I headed? What do I want to do? Where do I want to head? And we need to keep recalibrating. And that's why I call this the happiness trail, because the trail is not a fixed path. It's dependent on individuals. It's dependent on each individual has a different metric. And I think we need to consciously understand that happiness is not going to come to us without some amount of personal thinking. Yeah, that's
Ramesh,
my take.
you had a very iconic career. You've been a manager in companies, worked in textile companies or two-wheeler companies, and then you quit it all, went and became a school principal, then a management school principal, and now you're teaching. You're the chairman of IIT Pallakad and adjunct faculty at IIM Bangalore. I noticed recently that you had given a video interview at IIM Bangalore to a lady, and you were talking about marketing and branding. The core of marketing and branding is about finding some distinctive position where you can be different. And so it suggests that you must be willing to disrupt what's going on. And that sort of, how does it tie in with this happiness business? I know they're two different events, but I'm just connecting them.
Yeah. Okay. So
for our audience.
Let me try and think on the fly. That's the only skill you learn when you're teaching 75 in hundreds of the smartest kids in the world, in the country. Now, first thing I want to address, Gopal and Ravi. You see, I think we need to relook at this word small businesses. I would strongly urge you to look at this. I think every business when it started was small. Elon Musk was not a big businessman. Steve Jobs was. So, it's a small business. Everybody started small. And I think the common thing about every business which starts is they have no idea where they're headed. And it's a whole lot of other things that makes the small business remain small or become big. And there are operational issues and so on and so forth. So for me, I believe that today's world, again, my red flag to youngsters and leaders is we are looking at instant gratification. We are looking at very quick results because of pressure from venture capitalists, pressure from private equity, pressure from the market. And that's where, Gopal, I told you, I'm a marketing guy. For me, valuation is a meaningless number. It's all about value. It's about, does the customer pay you a rupee more than what it cost you to make it? End of the story. Valuation is a consequence. It can never be an objective. It has to be a consequence. But today, I start a startup, I'm hoping who will buy me out at what value. So what did I learn? And I'm going to share this one. I think it's got to be, it's important. I did a lot of things. You're right. I did a lot of things, which is not in my blood at all. Gopal, I'm a good Tambram fellow. Father was a naval officer. I'm the first guy. So I learned one thing. And again, I'm saying this, with a lot of wisdom, but I realized wisdom comes in hindsight. It was not some part of a great planned strategy. It's come in wisdom. And then I realized it's also when I read the biographies of many of the people. When I left the corporate world in 1990, I didn't know where. I didn't have a rupee in my, 1990, nobody got paid. 95, 96, 97 is when the floodgates opened for salaries to go up. 1990, I could barely, I had 4 mouths to feed, not a rupee in the bank. And obviously I was doing exceedingly well as a corporate guy. I enjoyed the corporate world. I decided that it was the end of the road in this organization for whatever reason. Now I had the option of going to somebody else, and I could have done it. I had options. For some reason, I decided not to. And that is the big lesson I have learned in strategy. You see, I think management schools, all of us talk about strategy. And this is my lesson to business leaders, small and medium, large, whoever it is, and professional. What I learned in retrospect, and this is what I followed now, Gopal, in the last 30 years, intuitively, I now put it in a very structured form. I think what I learned is strategy, we tend to focus on what you should be doing. Strategy is doing this, strategy is doing that, all of this. I think a very critical part of strategy is knowing what not to do. What is the thing that you shouldn't be getting into? And I think that was what I got clear in 1990 when I left the corporate world. That is what I had clear every time I made a change from a school to a college. I had a lot of calls from people. Gopal, in those days, I was a bit of a hero here in this country. Guy, MBA, IIT, IIM, goes and heads a school. I became a Mr. Chips. I became a To Serve with Love and all that stuff. It's all nice for press. But at the end of the day, it's it's uncertainty. I didn't know where I was headed. So in my view, and that is why in my book, The 5 I's, the first I is coming from my marketing background. Integrity. Integrity is not about honesty. I am not even recommending you be honest or dishonest. I am not preaching here. There is another dictionary word of integrity, the dictionary definition of integrity. It is about completeness, maintaining the integrity of the product, maintaining the consistency of the product, maintaining the completeness of the product. You can say that a filmmaker maintained the integrity of the book, of a book. So for me, integrity, and this is for me the most important element for any leader or any individual, is who am I? Like a brand has to be very clear about my core values. For me, integrity is about, are you clear about who you are? And why is that? Again, I will take up from Ravi and what you all keep saying. You have to take decisions in life. You're at crossroads in life. And there is no road marked as to which is the right road to go and the wrong road to go. You learn this after you take the road. Life is like the good Indian road. The board comes after the crossing and never before the crossing. If you go on very highways, you will notice that it's always like that. So our life is like that. Now, when you come to these crossroads, how do you decide, should I take A, B, or C road? That is when, if you are clear about who you are, what do you stand for? What are your core values? I think this is very important. And last bit before I'll leave it to your asking questions is, I think this is where our stress levels come, because we are put into places where we don't want to be. And there are lots of nice sayings about it. I don't want to get into it, but I'll just give you my own practical lesson I learned. See, the challenge for leadership and everybody, individuals, is not to decide between right and wrong. See, when you do decide between right and wrong, then you're doing wrong. It's what you might call, it's a moral temptation. You know the consequences of doing wrong. You know the impact of doing wrong, and you're willing to face it. I think managers, leaders, all of us have a challenge in deciding between right and right. There are two roads to take. Both are equally right. Do I take a personal interest, or do I look for the larger cause? Do I go by law, or do I go by empathy? Do I do this, or do I do that? And it's very interesting, as you said, today is Rama, that January 22nd. I think Rama's life was full of ethical dilemmas. Does he owe his loyalty to the wife and the family, or does he owe it to his father? Does he owe it to the kingdom, or does he owe it to his personal life? And I think that is what makes this whole thing great, because I think he managed ethical dilemmas right. So I am just leaving this, for me personally, when I left TVS, I think I look back and my TVS ethical dilemma was, am I going to get the reason for leaving this corporate? Would I find it different in another corporate? I think my answer was no. I think it was as good a company as I could have possibly been in. But I had certain issues, and I said, would I find this in others? My answer was no. So I'll just share one last small story. And I think for the, this business of brand value integrity. My daughter, Gopal, she's doing well in a multinational company. She's exceedingly well for her thing, touch wood. And as usual, when you're doing well, there are the headhunters who come and, keep calling you up. And when you're young at 30, 40, 45, obviously you want to check your market value out and so on and so forth. So we have these discussions. Recently, she got a call from a company, which is a liquor company. So she said, country head, this, that, big name. Then we walked through the whole thing. And I said, Rohini, let me ask you a simple question. Where would it fit into your scheme of things on being the country head of a liquor company? Think about it, and then we will decide. You decide whether you want to go. And the next day she called me and said that I got the answer. So I think all of us have to have this clarity, and like a brand, what are elements of the brand that you will negotiate? What are elements of the brand or components of the brand you will not negotiate? The best example I can think of is Tim Cook must have had sleepless nights when he had to compromise, when the US on the terrorist privacy. Now, does he owe it to the government of United States, or does he owe it to his consumer who is guaranteed privacy? There are no easy answers. but these are the calls you have to take if you want to sleep well at night. That's my take on this, Gopal. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramesh. That is a very coherent explanation, because especially smaller companies, no different from larger companies, have the same dilemmas. How do I lead? This leadership from the back is a completely new angle, which I'm sure most of the audience have not even heard of, and they would like to know more about. Being happy at the end of the day and not feeling that you have done something which is compromising your authenticity. There's a third angle to this. Tulsi is not here, so I just want to take a few minutes, which is about governance. Very often we are asked in our book on Inside the Boardroom, although we've used the title Inside the Boardroom, it is about inside the management committee, inside the factory, whichever thing you're heading, which matters more, rules or behavior of leaders? And we have said that rules matter. You must have processes. You can't run an organization without processes and rules. But the behavior of leaders also matters. That's the essence of what we have said in our book. And you get advanced signals about things going wrong from the behavior of people. And behavior comes out of niyat, niti, and niyam. For those, since a lot of people from the South are on this call, niyat is about your intent, what in management jargon we call purpose or strategic intent. Niti is about your conduct and behavior. And niyam is about rules. Many startups think that niyam is good enough. But actually, if you go upstream, you have to go to the Gangotri. Then it is your niyat. And as Ramesh was saying a few minutes ago, if you decided that you want to have a billion-dollar company in 3 years, you behave in a certain way. And I'm not commenting whether it's right or wrong. I'm merely saying that behavior is different from another person who says, I want to build a company that will last 100 years. And Ravi also referred to that if you must be patient. So the 3 books that we have talked about, Inside the Boardroom, Leading from the Back, and The Happiness Train, sort of gel together. So long as you are reading them together, and I'm sure those of you who wish to get more information about the book can't have this seminar going on for the next 2 days. So Rohit will be happy to make a pack of 3 for you if you're interested. And I want to take the metaphors. Ravi is also from the automotive industry. He's also done 2-wheelers. Then he moved on to 4-wheelers and 10-wheelers as well, the big trucks. And Ramesh has also been with 2-wheelers. I want to take a metaphor. The leadership that you're providing is like the fuel in the engine, and it generates the power. And it's not just your leadership, but your senior team. The fulfillment of happiness is the way, the drive quality of the vehicle. It's a smooth ride, not too many bumps, but that requires the car to have a good transmission system and reasonable shock absorbers, and that's the governance system. So these 3 books also fit into a nice automotive metaphor. And it is very important that leaders of SMEs or small companies, and it is a very erroneous assumption if anybody thinks that these things are only for large companies. I mean, imagine if you're raising your kid. All of us have our families to raise, though the 3 of us are probably beyond that immediate stage. You can't say that I will raise this kid only with love. Neither can you say I'll give only discipline. You have to give love and discipline. You can never be sure you're raising them right until they're 25 and up and running. And if you made some big mistakes in the past, that's bad luck. And therefore, it is very important to impart values. And in a company also, that is very important. Think about the values. And what really Ravi and Ramesh have talked about are intrinsic human values in a company. I think Ramesh used the word empathy, and Ravi used the word patience, long-term, and not just try to do everything yesterday. Ravi, I would ask whether you'd like to make any further elucidation or comments based on your idea, because what I would like people to take away from this is that these 3 aspects, leading and leading from the back in this particular case, governance, and governance is about rules, but behavior also, and being happy and fulfilled, they are all linked together. Would you like to make some comments before we seek any questions from the audience? And Ramesh, you after that.
Yeah, I think so. One element which binds everything together is really trust.
Very good point.
If you don't have trust, you can't have happiness, you can't have leadership, you can't, or at least leading from the back. You know, you can lead from the front without having trust. Because through fear and through punishment and through this thing, you can lead from the front. But for leading from the back, you need to have trust. You need to develop trust, because that's how the distributed leadership can work effectively.
But now, Ravi, how can you? I know there's no silver bullet. You're not say it in 1 minute. How do you get trust?
Yeah, so I'm coming to that. So I have kind of thought a lot on this, and I've read a lot of books. And what I've come to at the moment, the conclusion is, if I was to look at trust, I would look at trust in 5 different ways, not 5 different ways, but 5 different aspects of how do you define trust? How do you build trust? Can trust, once broken, can it be rebuilt? How do you value trust? Now, I've gone quite deep into this, and I found that it has a very interesting aspect, is how do you develop a trust, how to do it. And because I'm still this work in progress, so I feel that trust is the glue, actually, which binds everything together. And if you don't have trust, then whether it's boardroom or leadership or happiness, everything will go for a toss. And trust is something so unique, so special, and yes, so basic, that whether it is in a corporate world or in a family world or in a social world, this is the binding force. So people need to trust you to be able to, or rather, you need to first trust the person for him or her to trust you back. It's a two-way process.
Very powerful point you make. There is no easy way to get trust. But I think the overarching point I'm picking up also, Ravi, from what you said, is that the trust is not given, it is earned.
Yes. Let me take 2 minutes more. You know, I haven't talked about myself so far, but I've worked in 7 companies, each in a different industry. And I have gone alone. Now, you can understand that when you're going into different industry, different company, of which you have no knowledge, and somebody has taken the risk on you that he has taken in the company, you've been taken in that company. So what do you do? What do you do? Once you enter a company of which you don't know anything about, of the industry you don't know anything, how do you work your way through? The first and foremost thing is that you need to earn the trust of people out there, because you know 0 and they know 9 out of 10. How do you trust? So I've gone alone, because if I've gone the normal practice, you go with 6, 7 of your coterie, because you trust them, you feel confident, you feel more comfortable. I've gone alone. That is to give a signal that I have come alone in this company because I trust you people. So you're giving a message, you're giving a signal that you trust people. But of course, reciprocation of trust takes a bit of time, because they don't know you and you know what kind of person you are. But you have to start first by trusting people, and then accept trust or expect trust by your own behavior, not by talking, but by your own behavior that you develop trust. But it's a fairly exhaustive topic, I can say, but it is a very basic element in whatever we have said so far. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. That is a very powerful point, and your next book should be on trust. That's my suggestion to you. And Ramesh, do you have any sort of closing comments you've heard, not just about happiness, but about the cluster of subjects that we have discussed.
I would actually just build on what Ravi has said, because for me that's the first I, and it's he will use the word trust, and you can't argue against that. So I use the word integrity and who you are and what you stand for. So Ravi, if I can rephrase, so one of the ways I would, as you were talking, I realized that when you trust somebody, basically as a leader, as a spouse, as a child, what a friend, whoever it is, essentially you go back to our computer. It's what you see is what you get. You are open, you are upfront, you know what to expect from this person. And therefore, I have defined in my book, when I talk about integrity, what are the three aspects of integrity that come about? The first one is you must be clear on what you stand for. You must be very clear on what you stand for. The others must know exactly what to expect from you. And the third part is I deliver on that consistently. So I think these three components for me is exactly what Ravi is saying in his way.
I think sorry, may I cut in a little bit
please,
here?
Ravi.
So I think you have you're defining it very well, because I have defined trust as consistent integrity.
Yeah,
consistent integrity. Right.
Yeah.
That ties in very well with what Ramesh is.
Yeah.
So, I think it's good that you raise this issue, because the problem I find, Gopal, is that all these words are used in jargons, in seminars, in, hand-me-downs of things. But ultimately, how do I operationalize it? How do I actually transfer it? As Ravi said, one of my signals I gave was, I trust you, I have nobody else, I'm alone with you guys. And therefore, I can only survive with you people. I think the challenge for management, and especially entrepreneurs and everybody, and it's for anybody, is to be able to tangibilize these intangible components, to make these intangible components operational. And this is a challenge in today's world, because today there is nothing called loyalty. There is nothing called relationships are breaking down in families and everywhere. Add to that is this COVID, and add to that is everything else. We all had the benefit of knowing people over 20, 30 years. We had the benefit of coffee table discussions. We had the benefit of going to people's houses when the child was born, when the marriage happened, when there was a death in the family. We just went everywhere. Today, it's all a group message of RIP, Om Shanti. So I think I would think, and Gopal, I see you smiling. What worries me is,
I always like to smile.
why,
I'm a happy man. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but Gopal, I'll tell you what worries me. What worries me is that people of my generation are doing it. You don't send condolence letters on group mail, and RIP, HBD, Om Shanti. My 60, 70-year-old sending a message saying, happy birthday, my dear wife, you're the best thing that happened to me 42 years ago. God, tell her, man, if you're happy, just tell her. She knows it in any case. So the point I'm trying to make is, we cannot fall victim. I think the current generation needs to be aware of many of these things, the challenges they're facing by themselves and with the people that they're dealing with. That's my take on this.
Okay, I think we are going to be running out of time. I don't know how many questions there are, but if anybody has a question, Praveen, you can pose it, because as I said, I want to close this by 7:15, latest 7:20. I just want to make one suggestion. I think, Praveen, we've had a very rich discussion, far richer than I had planned, because that's why we made it a conversation rather than a presentation. The three books have been published by three very good publishers. Ravi's book has been published by Penguin. I think Ramesh's book by Harper, and my book, Tulsi and I, by Rupa. And I think it would be perfectly okay with us. I speak for Ravi and Ramesh. If, Praveen, your audience is interested in having a transcript, edited version of what we have discussed, I don't think we have a copyright, we are not going to object. But provided we see what copyright, if you can make a transcript and edit it, I think, Ravi, I speak for you and Ramesh. We don't mind the audience who ask for it. We don't want to publish it and sending it as a book. But for those who are interested, it may be worthwhile. We would support it. Would you say that, Ramesh? Ravi?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
Right. Praveen, is there any...
That would be really great, sir.
I think that's a little
Yes.
value add for them.
So-
We've had a conversation which doesn't answer any questions, by the way. It raises more questions. But when you're grown
Right.
up with your people, like we have in the audience, that's the purpose of an exercise like this. Books and literature festival, books and business literature festival should provoke and not preach. I hope we have succeeded. Praveen, is there any questions, or you can go to the closing of the function?
Yes, we do have questions, sir. I have noted some of them sent me on WhatsApp. So I'll start one by one. It was little vague the way it's written, but still I try to articulate or frame it properly. One thing directed to Ramesh, sir. Sir, at one hand, before that, guys, dear audience, I'm Praveen Bhandary, founder of Orrigem. And as I'm asking this question on behalf of Mr. Mukesh Shetty. So here is a question. He says, on one hand, we says there is no loyalty left as before. And the second hand, or in the other hand, we say brands must build on loyalty. So
Sorry.
there is a dilemma. How to kind of handle this?
Ramesh.
sorry, can you just repeat the second part? On the there's no loyalty on the
Yeah.
other
So
hand?
one hand, we are saying loyalty is not there, or loyalty is decreasing, or people are not so loyal as before. On the other hand, we say we are building brands based on the loyalty or the trust.
Yeah.
So how to handle this too?
Yeah. So Praveen, that's a valid question. I don't say loyalty is not there. What I really want to say is today the world is so different. You have to work on loyalty as much as you have to work on a marriage. My grandparents never really worked on their marriage. They were there. We were culturally, socially. There was an environment, and that was it. I would think today the world is so different. See, multiple changes. One is I have changed a lot. I am bored now with something which has been with me for 2 years, 3 years. Earlier on, I was not bored. So you remember, there are social changes, there are cultural changes, there are environmental changes. We've got to take all of these into account. So I'll cut it short so that other questions are asked. All I'm saying is what we used to take for granted earlier, today we have to work on it. And the brands which are doing well, I'm an Apple fan. Okay, I am not a brand loyal for any other product except Apple. For me, this is the most classic example of loyalty and brand building. How does a company which sells 12 to 15% of the iPhones of phones in the world makes about 45 to 50% of the revenue of smartphones and 80% of the industry profits in a commoditized market? This is only marketing. There is no other answer to it. You need a good product and so on. So the point I want to make is, are you building? That's a separate subject in itself. How do I build loyalty? What do I need to do build loyalty? What do I need to build stickiness? I think we need to look at that. Yeah.
That's wonderful, sir. There are two more questions, and there is somebody, Manoj Soni, wants to ask a question. Mukesh sir, if you could unmute Manoj Soni, and he can ask a question.
Hello, can I hear
Yes,
me?
Manoj, you're.
Yeah. Thanks, Praveen. Hello, Gopal. Hello, Ramesh and Ravi. Thank you very much for a very insightful conversation. And I have read 2 of 3 books, and I read Gopal yours many of the books, and personally met you a couple of times. One of the things which I feel which is important for leadership is to understand from leading from the back. It requires trust, but in a situation where things are not, and the environment so uncertain, how to ensure that you develop the leadership which can lead from the front also in the middle management. Because this is one of the biggest challenge in today's scenario, when if you leave to them, sometimes in the uncertain scenarios, things don't happen like, because big organization can afford to do that, but a small organization or the organizations with family-owned businesses have got their own challenges on that front. So question to Gopal and Ravi on this.
I think Ravi should answer that question.
Yeah, I think I just answered in my earlier interaction, is that somebody narrated this incident to me, that one person who's running, say, medium scale industry, about 1,000-1,200 crore turnover, he was given with this book and he read it and he thought about it. And then he gave a feedback to the other person that, look, I used to put my fingers everywhere. Whenever there's a problem, I would jump into it. Whenever this thing, because I thought, no, it can't be done. And therefore, I would always get into it. After reading this book, I decided, what the hell? Why am I getting into it every time? So I pulled myself back. I have made people, given them responsibilities, given them targets, you do this. And I'm finding it's just a week or 10 days old thing. But I'm finding that people are taking a lot more interest. People are feeling much more responsible. That's one thing. And therefore, people are feeling good. On the other hand, it's giving me time to do other things, to look at progress, look at which next goal I should be going into, next, what else should I be doing in a bigger picture, what I'm going. So I'm saying that you need to have patience, as I mentioned. You need to take some risks. As it is, you are taking a risk by handling everything yourself. So you take another risk by trying to delegate to people. It's like crossing a road. Whether a person sees left or right or does not see left or right is a question of risk and perception. So even if you don't do anything, you are taking a risk. So please understand this, that risk is inherent in any decision that you take. Whether you are walking or whether you are not walking, there's a risk inherent in both of them. And therefore, if you have been handling everything yourself, you think you know everything, and you are the only one who can handle it, I'm saying try the other way out. Try it at least and see for yourself. See it for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months. And you will begin to then feel the difference. And then you will see whether you want to carry on forward with this. It's all this is very personal. So you need to try this out. And my only urge will be, please experiment, please try, and then go forward what you want to do.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, sir, I'll read 2 questions here, which
Read
come to
both.
us.
Read both so that we
Both,
finish.
yeah. Both I'll read right away. One is directed to Ramesh, sir. Ramesh, sir, Sushma is asking, she's saying this, everything, loyalty, trust, everything agreed. But when it comes to competition in the market, so the entire scenario changes, and how to handle that. That's one. And one is to RG, sir, which says, sir, what exactly happens inside the boardroom? Because we are MSMEs and we want to understand how boardroom operates. So could you please help us to understand in a little bit? So that's 2 questions here. The person who asked the second question is Mr. Ramesh, sir.
The Ramesh the question asked to Ramesh, let it go first, and then the question asked by Ramesh, I will answer that. And then we'll close it after that. Okay.
Okay. Very quickly, Sushma, it's a very interesting point. You use the word that all this is fine, loyalty, but when you go into the market pit, everything changes. I'm not quite sure what changes, to be honest with you. Yeah, life is different. It's difficult, and that's true. And that is why we need a clarity of purpose. So that is why, this book is about the question is, why are you doing business? Why are you trying to make money? Why are you trying to get into a good college? At the end of the day, you're assuming that all this will give me a peace of mind. You believe that a Mercedes will give me a peace of mind. My 3 BHK will help me. This thing will do it. You're doing it with a purpose, some purpose. Whatever, or you can be an NGO, you can be a painter, you can be all of which is trying to give you a sense of satisfaction beyond satisfaction. So the point I want to make is that when you are clear that this is what I want, then you need to be clear as to what am I going to do to get it. What are the things I'm willing to do? This is why I say today the world is, nobody wants to take the stairs. We all want to take the elevator. We want to reach the top fast. So it is a long haul. It is a very long haul. Today you younger generation are so lucky. You have brilliant biographies of some of the world's greatest people written by some super authors, all journalists. They read them. They're almost like Jeffrey Archer thrillers. You read the book. You look at the kind of life they have led for 10, 15, 20 years. But they stuck to certain principles, whether it's a Phil Knight of Nike or whether it's a Jeff Bezos of Amazon and so on. So my submission to you is, please take stock of yourself. And that's why I call my book the GPS. So my 5 eyes, it doesn't matter what your end goal is. You may be $10 million in the bank or to be the greatest singer. These 5 are fairly universal. And the first eye, as Gopal has said, it's about integrity, is if you are not clear. So why do I call it a GPS? Let's look at this. Gopal, I'll just take this 2 minutes on this particular one. See, we need a direction to our lives. We must have a direction. It's not the life that Gopal and I and Ravi led. It's way different. Now, there is a difference between a compass, or people call the compass. What is the difference between a compass and a GPS? A compass, irrespective of where you are, told you where the north is. Irrespective of where you want it, it said, this is the north, you figure out what you want to do. What does the GPS do? To GPS to be functional, it needs 2 inputs. It needs to know where you are headed. It also needs to know your current coordinates. Without your current coordinates, it cannot give you a direction. So you need to take stock of who am I, where am I, what do I want? Number one. What else does the GPS do? The GPS, as you're going, it suddenly says this road is blocked. But these are 3 different ways to reach it. So you see, you need to navigate yourself. And why do I say this? One last point I want to make is, as a 20-year-old, I have some objective. As a 30-year-old, it's different. As a father of 2 teenagers, my objectives. Now, if I don't recalibrate myself, at age 50, I end up doing something. And then I'm wondering, what am I doing all this for? Because you're not the same person at 50 as you were at 20. So I think it's a lot of stock taking. I don't want to peddle my book. The only reason I say buy my book is because all the royalties go to my counseling center. So I shamelessly say, please buy it. But more important for all of you, please don't fall into the 36, 38% of young people who are seeking psychiatric help for clinical depression. Today, that is the population of people. 35 to 37% of youngsters. Heart attacks are happening at 40 and 30. Gopal, I keep joking in my class saying, I've crossed that age. I'm at 70. I'm no longer, I don't worry. But today you guys have a problem. Please be careful about it. Over to you, Gopal.
Well, thank you. You asked a question about inside the boardroom, what happens in a boardroom. I don't want to give you a pedantic answer. A boardroom is the place in a factory, in an SME, in a family-managed business where the key decision makers get together. Even your building cooperative society, your club, your gymkhana, your music sabha have a boardroom. And I'm using the boardroom in that sense. Whichever SME you're working in, assuming it's not a one-man show, that is you, your wife, your brother, your father, your friend, your accountant, the decision-making group, the leadership team, I call the boardroom. So I think we've answered several of the questions. If I can, before I hand over to you, Praveen, I want to say my deepest
Sir, there are 2 more just in case you guys want to answer. Otherwise, I can go to the last one.
I'll have to sign off now, 7:30.
I understand, sir. So should we go to the thank you note?
If we can say thank you to Ravi so that we don't hold him up. He's been very kind to spare his time. Ravi, on behalf of Orrigem and certainly on behalf of myself, I would like to express my deep appreciation. It's a very noble act to be able to give time for these people, and I hope they will benefit from it. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you.
Gopal, can I interrupt? Ravi, for you, I just want to send my good old classmate from IIT Bombay, Bharat Balasubramaniam, sends you his regards. He was the head of Daimler-Benz and he says you met very often. So I promised him I will say hello to you on his behalf.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ravi sir. Thank you so much. I have received your signature copy, which was really wonderful. I already started reading the book.
Thank you.
And definitely looking forward for more engagements like this, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
See you, Ravi. Now you ask your 2 questions before we close.
Yes, one is from Mr. Rana Roy. These questions we are collecting from live programs that we have going on in social media right now. So one question coming from Rana Roy, which says, for SMEs, the entrepreneur always certain way they work, and they fail to do many things. But when we guide them, they follow for some time. But beyond the point, they again go back. How to control them? That's one. Second one is, Professor Ramesh sir, how to know what not to do, knowing your experience can help. Thank you. This is by Sudarshan Ganapati.
Go ahead, Ramesh, you do both.
Gopal, why don't you take the first one, and then I will just give a quick thinking on that.
You know, I'm not sure I think what he means is entrepreneurs tend to go back to their old ways. Is that the theme of the question? And how can
I would say entrepreneurs always know what they want, and they practice it for some time. And at one moment, they go back to old practices. They are not able to consistently.
So it has nothing to do with entrepreneurs. All human beings are like that. All human beings are like that. It's to do with human nature. If I tell you, if Baba Ramdev gives you 10 classes to do deep breathing and meditation, let's face it, after 1 month, you get back to your old habits, So think of it in a practical way. And I don't think it's special to do with entrepreneurs. When you raise your children, you tell them you must get high marks in this or that. And they may do it for some time and they may not. So it's human nature. Don't despair. Human beings are wonderful contributions, but they also need nurturing and support. So I'll leave it there. Ramesh, you can take the last part of the question.
Very quickly, you see, you really don't know. So therefore, you can give it, I can couch it in management jargon and all that. It doesn't help. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you, now that you're talking, and I've said it in my book, one of the things I've learned is go with your heart. I have, Gopal, I have been often, I've said all this vision, mission, and all that is fine. But my life has been completely random in many ways. I tried to find out what was the common thing in all of this, whether I was in the corporate world, whether I went to the school, whether I was in management consulting, when I went to Dharmasthala's business school. And I realized that probably one of the things is I went where there was an emotional connect. I left this school. The Lawrence School is one of the very prized public schools in the country. And as soon as I left the school, I got calls from at least 4, 5 of the leading public schools in this country. And I said, will you join and will you come? We are looking for a head. And I said, no. He says, why? I mean, we are even better than you. I said, because my heart took me there. I don't have a heart in your school. I don't have it. So I think we end up doing things which are not in our nature. You're learning music when you should be painting. You're learning engineering when you should be eating. So parents are anxious. And in the reality is, parents, I don't blame the parents. It's all nice. That's why Gopal, I've attended too many of these alumni sessions. Guys come in as the head of an institution, and I always tell them, be careful. Classes, I was the lowest in my grades. I was the lowest in things. See where I said, all this is fine, but you're not the parent of these kids. Your parents have certain things. So take time off as a parent. If you're a parent, don't force your children into doing things which may not be. On the other hand, remember, the children do not have the wisdom of experience. So I had this clear contract with my son when he was 18, 19, 20. Like all good fathers and sons, whatever I said would upset him. Whatever he said would upset me. And it would happen as a teenager, adolescent. Then I told him one day, I said, listen, I am a father. My job is to tell you. You can take it in from 1 year and throw it out of the second year. You have that option. But at age 35 and 40, don't come back and tell me what were you doing when I was 17, when I didn't have this wisdom. So my suggestion to you would be, take stock of yourself periodically. Try and understand what is it that turns you on? What is it that excites you? What are the pros and cons of it? And you may not do it immediately. Set yourself a target. Say, I'll do it 3 years from today. I'll do it 5 years today, because I'm not financially independent. I do not have the resources to do it. Do it in any which way you want to. But do not, the only answer I can tell you, do not take your life's journey that you will start somewhere and end up where you want to. Those days are over. Gopal and I are the last of the group who were lucky to be in that generation. Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Gopal, for a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ramesh. Praveen, so we can close now?
Sir, before I put my vote of thanks, is there something that you want to add, sir?
No, nothing. I've already answered the first question.
Wonderful. So yes, we're coming to the end of the session, and that was really wonderful. So yes, a lot of information, a lot of learnings, and a lot of raw wisdom for the expertise here. Before I express my gratitude, I noticed that many of you searching internet for books written by our panelists. To assist you, I'm sharing this link in the chat box. Click to order, or you can use the phone number and the email ID of Rohit Jerajani, and you can reach out to him, guys. He'll courier it to you for free of cost. No courier charges will be applicable, only the book cost. Find social media handles in the chat box to follow our panelists for insightful content and on the business, leadership, or the corporate world. And yes, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, sir, a heartfelt thanks to you for making this program truly memorable. My sincere gratitude to Mr. Ravi Kant, sir, which I already left. And yes, I'm remembering Tulsi madam as she was not able to join us. And Mr. Ramesh Venkateswaran, sir. Thank you so much. Your insights on leadership, business, and happiness are invaluable for all of us to implement and practice in our lives. Thanks to my team members for our flawless design of the program and impeccable execution of the event. A big thanks to Geeta ma'am, although she's not there. Actions beyond the books and business respect concept. It's an acknowledgement of her enduring support, mentorship, and the role she have played as a cherished friend. Last but not least, thanks to every participant for taking the time, engaging throughout the program on Zoom and through YouTube, and encouraging us with their presence. Dear all, see you again in our next episode very soon. Thank you so much. So that's where we come to the end of the program, sir. And
Thank you. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ramesh.
Thank you, sir.
Praveen.
Thank
Bye.
you, Ramesh.
Bye.
Bye.